record. I'm just going to give a short, so this is our Empathy Circle Facilitators Support Group, and we're here to support each other with holding empathy circles and empathy cafes. And Marta will be, now has 15 minutes to talk about her work that she's doing with empathy circles.
Yeah, so the work with XR Ireland is rather simple because I just show up as a facilitator and there's a whole bunch of other people doing it, like organizing it. And it's very easy. I think because it's people that have already been working with each other within XR Ireland in, other meetings, other kinds of things. There's this common understanding and like there's no opposition to the method. It's very smooth. A lot of the people that would be in the circles haven't had any facilitated training, but in a way, which could definitely help, but because people already have worked together and have this common language, it's easier to be willing to just do it, I suppose, in a way. So I'm curious to see how it'll develop over coming weeks and months, because I think we'd want to do it at least every other week. But that's just rolling independently of me in a way. And one thing that was very important for that was that there was they made a little clip that they've posted on social media. And so I think that was one of the reasons where we got, like, the first time we did it, there was 27 people there. And it was lovely and everyone was very happy at the end and everyone was saying, yes, let's do it again. But I think the social media campaign, it was just a little clip they did, but because it was on Instagram and Twitter and this, that, and the other, I don't even know. I think that really helped with spreading the word. In Portugal, I've done it with one regional group and I'll do it with another. But I've also targeted therapists or people I know that do group work that are not part of XR, because I just really, I just want to get the method around, because I know of people not being used to doing things online. And so I thought, well, if they're going to have to move online anyway, this might be a simple method that they could pick up. And I suppose, I was trying to think what can I do with these, I suppose now 10 minutes that would be useful. And I've just had a lot of, nothing specific, but a lot of thoughts that have been coming up for me in relation to me facilitating and how I find that I have to justify a lot of the things about the empathy circle method to people as part of facilitating. So for example, like, why 2 hours? Why does it have to be that long? Can't we just, people are busy, can't we make it shorter? Or, or like another group, do we need to reflect all the time? Can't we just like reflect every so often? Or, or like, well, but I have a question, can't I just ask my question? Or, well, but, but actually I want, oh no, let me be the one to start. Like, it's a lot of things, and like it's really tricky for me because I am a flexible person. I just want everyone to be free, and so I had to sort of dig deep into, okay, if I still feel strongly that there's a reason for this to be that way, why is it? And so that's sort of, and it's a process that I've started thinking, and it's going to take me probably weeks and months as I do it more and with different groups. But there are some things that came up that I want to share with you in case people see it differently, or or whatever comes up. And I hope it's somehow not just me talking, that it's somehow useful to others too. So yeah, so the whole thing about people interrupting, right? Like, I have something to say and all that. I don't always personally have something against it, but there is something about this agreement of coming to the empathy cycle of I'm not going to be interrupted. This is a space where I know I'm not going to be interrupted. And if I have someone that is coming that has been interrupted at school, or has been interrupted at home in their families, or has been not allowed to have their time where they fully explain their ideas to its fully without having someone else interject or agree or disagree or validate or say thank you for sharing that, or just saying something to it in their time of sharing, then I can understand, yeah, that it's really important. That one of the reasons that might make them want to come to empathy cycles is that during my 5 minutes they're mine. There's just like no one's going to touch my 5 minutes. And so that's one reason for why, you know, like, okay, and so then it's okay, if I want people not to interrupt, how do I, and I've not figured it out, how do I explain it, or how do I embody it without having to explain all of this? Because like I don't want to interrupt the flow by having to explain why it's bad to interrupt, or not bad, why it's not helpful, or why it's not part of the method. Because at the same time, I know that person that wants to interrupt, really, they just want to express their, you know, like there's all sorts of reasons why interrupting would be good, but that's not. Then there's the whole thing of depth that we sort of talked a bit about. And for me, it's like, this is not therapy, this is not healing, although it can be therapeutic and healing as well. But this is just, I'm listening and I'm sharing, and I hope that there's the emotional empathy there, right? The holding. But even if that isn't there, that it's just very contained. And so people that would just want to have a place where they can be heard, but they don't necessarily, you know, they might just want to hear their ideas. They don't necessarily want or are looking for the emotional depth. So it's, yeah, there's something there about. And then one time with James, there was this interesting thing about, it's good that, you know, James said something that made me realize the value of not being able to ask questions. Because if you can't ask questions because of the way this method works, like you can ask a question during your turn, but other people only reply if they want to, it offers this safety. It's like you can have your boundaries better than in a normal conversation, because I don't need to state, I don't want to answer your question. I can just ignore it. You know, like it's, there's that beauty there of the method. So I'm just appreciating things about the method and realizing why certain things are the way they are. Yeah. And the validating, like I've noticed a lot of therapists, or which is lovely in a healing background, that they'd go thank you at the end of each share before saying anything else. You know, someone shares, and first thing the therapist would do, or the healer or whatever, or even a friend, right, they'd say thank you for sharing. But if you do that in an empathy circle, you're breaking the person's flow. And really, when you're saying thank you, it's more about you than them. Like it's just like you're including yourself in their 5 minutes by adding something like thank you that is not about them. And even sometimes I do that, even the oh yeah, like just all these things that we do, they're just interjections, but they're in their space, in their 5 minutes. I mean, sometimes they're fully appropriate and like you feel it with the person, but I'm just saying more in general and abstract. Yeah, I have a whole list of these sort of thoughts that have come to me, and it's really been a learning recently. And like I know last week I was using a red card with 5 minutes written on it, and I hadn't realized that I was doing. Now I'm just doing, you know, the timer, because that's more like neutral. But people see the red card and they don't always see the timer. So it's like I don't know how to work that out. But definitely not have a card with the number, because that makes people feel about school, I think, or something very like, yeah. Anyway, I'll shut up, because probably people have something to say to all of this. But yeah, just this thing of like, it's the other person's 5 minutes. And for me, it's like, it's the generous thing that we're doing here for each other. It's just like, it's your 5 minutes. I'm going to reflect and try and be as smooth as possible so that I don't interrupt what you were thinking about. And if that might mean repeating your exact words, that's what I'll do. But it's just so that you can hear yourself and stay within your thought. And with some people, I might feel that they want it deeper or not, right? And I'll learn and hopefully get better over time. But it's just this thing of being generous. And the last thought is that I've really, and that this is something that I need to ask of the people that I facilitate with, and very often that's Edwin or Bill, is that I've learned as well recently that I'm better off not facilitating in the days that I'm very tired, or for one reason or another not feeling particularly generous, because it's hard for me. Yeah, I think I'm better in the days where I'm in a good mood, where I'm feeling, generous or less tired. And so I need to learn, even with myself, to say, if there's enough facilitators today in the cafe, maybe I won't facilitate today, if that's okay. Yeah. Sorry, that was a lot. Thank you. Lou.
So I'm feeling a lot of joy listening to you reflect on the things that you've learned and the things that you have questions about. And it's motivating me to get to writing the second part of the facilitator's guide that I started, because it addresses a lot of the things that you're saying. And I also made a note about creating an empathy circle FAQ. So frequently asked questions that people have about why is it this way and why. So giving people an FAQ actually might also be an interesting way to deal with some of those questions. But one of the key things that you said that I think is really important, and this is said in the empathy circle process, that the purpose of it, doing the reflection, is that the speaker be heard to their satisfaction. So the reflection is not about the listener getting understanding. Like, in other words, that I'm trying to satisfy my own curiosity as a listener and get answers to my questions, whatever's in my mind about what you said. It's more reflecting back to you to your satisfaction, not to mine. And a lot of the things that you described are about the listener's curiosity, not so much about what the speaker just was trying to get across. And that's usually how I frame it when someone has an objection that they want to stop someone or make a comment, or I really just say to them, so I understand you have all those things in your mind, and that's great, that's fine. When it's your turn to speak, say all of them. You can say whatever you want. If you have questions, speak them. If you have reactions to what the person said, speak them. It's your time. You can say whatever you like. But when you're the reflector, it's really just your job to let the person know that they were heard by reflecting back to them what you are getting about what they're saying.
Thank you, Lou. Bill?
Well, I just want to support your decision, but I find it that even when you're not feeling generous, you're acting generously. And I just want to show some appreciation for that.
Thank you, Bill. Anne?
I wondered, when you said about stepping back from facilitating if you're feeling tired or not very generous that day, is there a place that you could have a little support before you start the meeting or the facilitation session, so that you're listened to and you're clearer then?
That's a good point. Yeah, I suppose I've never so far stopped doing it, but that's a good thing, and I'll take that on when it does happen. I think what's happened, I I think what's happened was I found myself already facilitating when I noticed that I wasn't feeling generous, or, you know, that just like, and that I felt that affected my facilitation. It's more been presenting that way, but it's only happened, yeah. But I think you're right. Feeling, yeah, getting a bit of being heard before would solve it probably. Yeah, thank you, Han.
I appreciate the nuances of, you know, documenting this. I think this is going to be really helpful for others, you know, all these nuanced insights. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah, Martin too. So is that, do you feel complete with that? So I've heard the time, so me.